George Matthew from Brooklyn Review. Today I'll be talking to you about the basics of the GRE examination. So in this video, I'll be answering questions such as what is GRE, what is the test content, and how the test is going to be unraveled. I mean to say the test structure or pattern. So I'm also going to talk to you about how the test is going to be scored eventually. So without any further ado, let me dive right into it. So the first question, of course, is what is GRE? GRE stands for Graduate Record Examination, and it is a standardized test developed by Educational Testing Service or ETS. Now the question that is lurking at the back of your mind right now would be, what is a standardized test? So in order to answer this question effectively, I should actually place certain facts of the matter before you. Every year, hundreds of thousands of students from across the globe apply to the schools, colleges, and universities in the United States. But it's almost impossible for the admission council or panels to compare all the students and select the right candidate, because there is no common standard or parameter to compare these applicants from such myriad backgrounds. That's where GRE comes into the picture. GRE functions as a common standard for comparing applicants hailing from such myriad backgrounds. So since GRE acts as a common standard, it is called a standardized test. Now, having established what a standardized test to you, now let's actually try to understand what do we have in the test in the form of the content. So there are three content areas that GRE has. So the first one is called Analytical Writing Assessment, or AWA, or some people even call it AWA. So this is an essay writing task, wherein you will have to write an essay on a provided issue. So that's why it's called analysis of an issue. Previously, before September 22nd, 2023, GRE had two essays at the very beginning of the test. That means the AWA had two essays, which were called analysis of an issue and analysis of an argument. Now ETS has removed the analysis of an argument essay from the AWA section, and only one essay is remaining, and that is analysis of an issue. So this is an essay which you'll have to write and which will be scored separately from the other two sections of the GRE test. Now let's try to understand the other segments. So there is something called verbal reasoning. And what is verbal reasoning in GRE? Verbal reasoning is nothing but a combination of English skills as well as reasoning skills. So it is not just English, it is not just reasoning, it is a combination of both. That's the reason it is called verbal reasoning. So your linguistic skills alone will not help you to crack the verbal reasoning. Likewise, your reasoning skills alone is not sufficient. So that's why it is called verbal reasoning, a combination of both the skills. Now let's talk about the other part, or the third segment, which is called quantitative reasoning, which is a combination of your mathematical skills as well as your reasoning skills. Again, it is a combination of both of these skills. That's why ETA doesn't call it math or doesn't call it reasoning. It is quantitative reasoning because it is a combination of both. So in short, we can say that in GRE we have essay writing, English and math. But that would be a rather oversimplified version of presenting the content of the GRE examination. So it is definitely way tougher than that. So we know these are the content areas of the GRE examination. Now let's try to understand how the test is going to be unraveled, or how the test is structured or organized. Obviously, it is needless to say that at the very beginning of the test, you are going to get the essay. So the first half an hour you will be writing the essay, and that is analysis of an issue. And this will be followed by either a verbal reasoning section or a quantitative reasoning section. Let us say it is a verbal reasoning section for the sake of convenience, for the sake of this particular video. So the first verbal reasoning section will contain 12 questions, okay, and which you will have to actually answer within 18 minutes. So you've got 12 questions, verbal listening questions, which should be answered in 18 minutes. And then the second verbal listening section again will have 15 questions, and you'll have to answer those 15 questions in 23 minutes, right? So just like the verbal reasoning section or segment has two different sections, like section 1, which contains 12 questions, and section 2, which contains 15 questions, the quantitative reasoning section also has two separate sections. So the quant segment, the first section, will have again 12 questions which you'll have to answer in 21 minutes. And there is also a second section of quantitative reasoning which will have 15 questions, and you'll have to answer those 15 questions within 26 minutes, right? So there is an essay writing section, and there are two verbal reasoning sections and two quantitative reasoning sections. So one thing is guaranteed: when you start the GRE examination, you will get the analysis of an issue or that essay writing section at the very beginning, post which you can get a verbal reasoning section or a quantitative reasoning section, which is not fixed yet, because GRE is a computer based test or CBT, which is section or level adaptive. That means it is actually going to adapt live during the examination to the performances of the test taker. So therefore it is actually quite dynamic, so we cannot predict which section is actually going to come first. So this is something that you need to experience during the examination. Now we established the test content as well as the test structure, how the GRE test is actually going to be unraveled to you. Now let us talk about the different types of GRE examination that you are going to have as options. So GRE is offered normally in two different versions. One is the GRE general test, the other one is the GRE subject test. So I've been so far talking exclusively about the GRE general test because that is a test 99.9% of Indian students take. So the GRE subject test, which will normally have tests which is specifically designed for subjects such as mathematics, physics and psychology. And this is not a common occurrence. Most people don't take the GRE subject test. Most people take the GRE general test. So we talked about the different versions of the GRE examination. Now let's also talk about the delivery modalities of the GRE examination. The GRE is delivered as a paper-based test, but it is not available universally. It is available in certain countries with specific conditions. But GRE computer-based test or CBT is available. Okay, it is available. You will have to travel to a test center and take the GRE computer-based test. GRE also is available as a remote test online as well. But I would again suggest you to go to the test center and take the GRE computer-based test, which is actually the best option that is available to you. I talked to you about the different versions of the GRE test and how the test is actually going to be delivered. Now let me talk to you about the scoring, how GRE is scored. Let us talk about the AVA first. The analytical writing assessment or AVA or AWA or the essay writing section in the GRE examination is scored separately from the verbal reasoning section as well as the quantitative reasoning section. So the AVA is scored on a scale of 0 to 6 with 0.5 increments. That means it will be 0.5, 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3, 3.5, 4, 4.5, 5, 5.5 and maximum is 6. So that is how GRE AVA is scored. And now let us talk about the consolidated scores of the GRE verbal reasoning section as well as the quantitative reasoning section. So what do we have? In verbal reasoning, the score ranges from 130 to 170. So the minimum is 130 and the maximum is 170. And same is the case with quantitative reasoning. The score starts from 130, which is the minimum score, and 170, which is the maximum score. So 130 plus 130, which is actually the lower end of the spectrum. So if you put that together, you will get 260. And if you add up 170 plus 170, then that will actually give you 340. So you can see that the score range, the consolidated GRE score range or the scale is 260 to 340. Now this score 260 to 340 doesn't include the AVA score, which is normally reported separately. Now the pertinent question now is, what is a good score? So I'm going to actually just characterize this GRE scores into different segments. The first one I would call a decent score. So anything above 300 is considered a decent score. You can tell people, okay, I took GRE test and I got a reasonable score. So, but again, it is not really something that's actually going to guarantee you an admission. So that's why I'm going to bring it the next category, that is called a safe score, which is around 305 to 310. If you get a score in that bracket, there is a very good probability that you're actually going to get an admission into a decent school or college in the US. Now the next segment is basically a very good score. So let us say if you get a 315 to 320 or 325, then that score is called a very good score. And why this is a very good score? Because if you get that score, if you get a 315 or 320 or 25, that score, you are actually going to get into very good schools and colleges. And the next segment is actually called an excellent score segment. So if you get a 325 plus, that is 330 or 335 or even 340, if you get that score, then you are in the big leagues, that you can actually apply to tier 1 schools and even Ivy League schools such as Harvard, Brown, Yale, Columbia or Cornell, these kind of top ranking universities and schools and colleges. That is the top range. So try to score a 335 to 340 if you're targeting the tier 1 schools, Ivy League schools and the top ranking universities and schools across the United States and even across the globe. So these are the scores which are actually quite desirable and which actually falls into different segments. Now I talked to you about the basics of the GR examination, and I will be talking to you further in the coming up videos further about the GRE verbal reasoning or quantitative reasoning. But today I would like to actually talk to you about how you should actually get a good score in the GR examination. Some of you are actually capable of preparing by yourself, but definitely there are a lot of people who would need help. And we at Brooklyn Review, we are an organization that provides high quality training for GRE aspirants, and we've been doing it for some long time. And most of our trainers are certified by agencies such as Educational Testing Service, British Council, IDP Australia, Pearson VUE, these kind of reputed international organizations. And our trainers are also certified by our internal training mechanism. So they are trained by multiple agencies. They're also certified by international agencies as well as the internal training and certification mechanism. And they are extremely high qualified, very knowledgeable and highly experienced, minimum 15 to 20 years of experience. And if you're looking for high quality training for GRE, either online or offline, we are here to help you.